Hello, hello. It's the first video on the second channel in quite a while. At least the one that's public. I think the last one was maybe Cocaine Diesel, but even then that was like a frag movie that I made for Twitter, so it doesn't quite count. But anyway, I've got a few objectives with this video that I want to accomplish. The first of which is talking about what this channel is for, but also I'm using a zero mid. So you may or may not know, based on how long you've been following me, that I've been using glass pads for like maybe 3 years now. Started really early on in the glass pads life cycle of like, you know, the SkyPad 2 was this like fairly obscure thing. And then I was going to do a video where I use a cutting board as a mouse pad. just a cutting board. The thing was interesting, but sadly, I think the moment for that video to exist has kind of passed. So, but anyway, I kept using glass pads for quite a while after that particular one. And I kind of like became a glass one trick for a few reasons I'll get into in a moment. But we'll see. I apologize for the big gaps in my speech as well, because it is a little bit difficult to multitask with this game, having to do my stupid ass target switching while talking about, you know, mouse pads or whatever. So this is my first time really using the zero mid. I did a warm-up run earlier because I haven't played FPS since I released the Azeron video. Wanted like a little bit of a warm-up before I get back into it and embarrass myself. I'm glad I did. But nonetheless. So this is like a first impression. This is not a review. However, this is something I want to be doing in the future for this channel, where I have this sort of live commentary flow with a pad that I'm using either for the first time or after an extended period of time. Just a conversation about what the pad actually does for you, you know, if you should buy it, etc. But first impressions are going to be first impressions. So far, to me, I wanted something out of this pad that was similar to the energon, right? Where it's got a good amount of stopping power for how fast it is. However, because the energon was so plush, it did feel kind of muddy at times, to the point where on days of higher humidity, or if I was gripping my mouse a little bit too tightly, it would be really, really hard to micro. And I didn't love that. I was hoping that the zero mid would be quite similar to the energon in terms of feeling, but while being able to come in a mid hardness variety. And so far it is kind of delivering, I'm gonna be honest. The one thing about the energon that is kind of unmatched for me is like arm stickiness though. And that's the reason that I used glass for so long in the first place, aside from all the other benefits that it has. I really liked how I could use an arm sleeve and put like the majority of my arm on the pad for stability, while also having like no friction on the arm basically. So yeah, it's a benefit that not a lot of people talk about. People talk about how you like have to use an arm sleeve in order to use a glass pad, but like not many people talk about how they want to, how it's like kind of a nice thing to have as a way to, that's good, as a way to reduce the friction on your arm. And that's the main reason I couldn't use cloth pads, is because so much of the time I would just get stuck. It wouldn't be like I can't move my arm at all like it is with when you're sweaty using a glass pad, but it would be to the point where I would have difficulty using my arm for fine movements, especially vertical ones. For like these big swipes, it was never an issue, but for like really small like adjustments like this, I really did not like pretty much any cloth pad. The energon was the only one that had like a smooth enough surface to allow me to make use of that. So yeah, I tried the Heian, the Freefall. This is all post Kazemi. Heian, Freefall, and what's the other one? I brought my Raiden out again, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that pad actually. It's like a weird middle ground to me of like, maybe it's because it's worn. I can't really get an opinion on the Raiden actually, because I forgot that one of the first things I did with it was use Lexips on it, which is like a ceramic mouse skate. So I'm pretty sure my pad is just like, you know, worn beyond belief. So I should reserve judgment in that regard. But for me, it feels quite similar to how I described the Energon earlier, where it like is a little bit too muddy for my taste. It is a bit faster than the Energon though, which, you know, I'm sure some people will enjoy. I also did like the Shirinkai. That one also did have a bit of arm stickiness issues for me, but it wasn't nearly as bad as oh, forgot I don't have any secondary skill. Nearly as bad as like the Heian. The Heian, I don't know, it's like unusable for me. As much as I wanted to, and like I aimed reasonably well with it, it just, I don't know. The bad days with that one were really bad. Like as a pad, I liked it though. It just as a something that my arm could glide on, it didn't work that well. So my impressions of Zero Mid right now are that it is not having any of that stickiness, that muddiness that I was getting with the Energon or with the Raiden. It's really easy to micro adjust. This is probably like, I want to say like the fastest cloth pad I own, maybe outside of the Shirinkai if you count that. And obviously my Raiden, it's not really fair to compare that to that one, but it definitely feels faster just because it's in mid. I mean, I guess the Raiden was too, but it's also not fair because it's like, this is a brand new Zero. But it is really fast actually. It's like every single pad these days, I feel like on the website it'll say, oh, super fast micro adjustments without giving up that controlled friction for flicks. But this one actually does seem to pull it off pretty well. I have some respect for the freefall, because it innovates with the bass. I think the bass is sick. It makes micros feel like, honestly, weird. I'm gonna be honest. It makes flicks feel incredible, but it makes micro adjusting and tracking quite strange to me. But I do respect the fact that it is good at something, and it's like really good at that one thing. However, the weirdness of the freefall is hard to put into words. It's like the ratio of static to dynamic friction is peculiar in the sense that once you get over the static friction, no, I don't know. It's kind of like I put such a small amount of force to get over the static friction and then it goes flying, you know? I don't know, that might be just me. I'm sure if I get used to it, it wouldn't be an issue either, but coming from glass and from pads like this one or the Energon, where it's a more like typical ratio, I feel. It was strange for sure. So I've got a few things. I should talk about the video too at some point. I'll get to that after what I want to do with this channel. So yeah, I have a few ideas in mind. One thing I want to mention that I was inspired by for this channel in general is the balisong community. I feel like there's like a decent amount that we could learn from them. Even though there isn't a ton of viewership for balisong reviews, I respect the lengths that people go to in their videos. Everybody who brings up, who reviews them will always be flipping in the video, more or less. And that for me, it's, oh, that's not good. I want to get rid of scroll real quick because I don't want to die. And this thing makes me take a lot of damage. And I'm doing enough to the point where it doesn't really bother me. Anyway, it always struck me as strange within the peripheral community to not use the product in an FPS game. Because to me, like, it's like reviewing a car and like not driving it, or like reviewing a tennis racket and never using it in the video. That's like insane, is it not? But for some reason, that's the standard within the peripheral review community, where okay, my damage is horrific without dual edge. Maybe I should pick it back up. But if I die, I die for real. Okay, if I do die, I'll just restart a run and then come back when I have infinite ammo. But nonetheless, I don't really get it. there are people who like have clips in their video, and that's like definitely a step up. But like even like Kovacs gameplay, something where a viewer could see the difference in performance, I think would be cool. You go from video to video. Like when I was looking into microphones, it's like not using the microphone in a microphone review. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm like a snob. I don't mean to call anybody out, by the way. If you do this, there's a lot of videos out there that have like good information that I appreciate, even if there isn't gameplay. But I also don't see why you can't have both. I keep taking these things that give me more ammo, and I already have infinite ammo. Let me check that other dual flame real quick. Let's see, what do we got? Oh my god. That seems quite good. I'll try that. This might fix me. Ooh. Not bad, not bad. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to do with these gunfire reviews. And the reason I brought up the balisong community is because the idea is that the whole time that they're talking about the knife, they're just kind of idly flipping. They aren't going for like crazy tricks most of the time. It's just like their default combo that they don't have to think about, and using that as like background footage basically. But it's a live commentary like this is. So I kind of wanted to emulate that style. I feel like it's pretty cool. So, but I also want to do balisong reviews. At least the one that is most interesting to me are like, I ordered a palette recently where there's like no information on that knife. And in general, the balisong community seems like fairly tight-knit, where companies appreciate the small amount of reviewers enough to like send them review products. And I really like trying new knives. I really like talking about knives, and I don't really have an outlet to do that. I mean, I've been trying them anyway, just for fun. But in terms of like being able to talk about it, I don't really have balisong friends. So it'd be cool to talk about like, oh yeah, have you tried the fucking Thai Kraken? And oh yeah, I liked it, but like it's a bit too handle biased to me. You know, I can't have those kinds of conversations with anybody. So I might as well talk to myself into the void. Okay, what else do I want to do? So for the FPS side of things, that's another trend within the balisong community is they do a first impressions and then they do a follow-up if they feel like their opinions have changed enough to warrant more updated info. And I think that's a pretty good idea where some knives, your first impression will be pretty much just like how it is. Other knives, it's worth spending more time with, developing your opinions more. And that's how it is for me with peripherals as well. Usually my first impressions for a product will be a lot higher than after like a week or two. There's partially where it's partially getting used to it, and then there's partially like that's pretty good actually. This might be okay. My frames are horrible in this game, by the way. I don't understand. I feel like they used to be better than this. Anyway. What else is there for why things get worse? And then partially like going back to other peripherals and being like, wait a minute, this is way better. That happened to me with the plastics, the skates. At first I was like, wow, these are actually exactly what I was looking for. It's like the Obsidian Pros in terms of like adding a bit more stopping power, but without making it as muddy. So I left a pretty positive review for them. And only after I went back to Jade did I realize just how scratchy they'd become. Because over the course of just a week, to be fair, I used it on the Serapad, which is like the skate obliterator. Over the course of a week, it became like the most scratchy set of skates I've ever used in my life. And I don't think that's okay. But also, like, I wouldn't... Oh, am I dead? No. I don't think I would have noticed. Also, I just realized I don't think I took my goblet from the first kill I got. Hold on, can I find it? Where did I kill that? There it is. No wonder I'm doing no damage. Okay. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Holy, no wonder I was getting cooked. All right. Sorry. I gotta practice this shit because I cannot finish a thought to save my life. But yeah, I wouldn't have known how scratchy they became if not for having gone back to Jade's and having used her for that amount of time. So I definitely think it's worth having, you know, more than just your first impressions in a review. And like at least maining it for a week. It seems very unfair to just like use a product for a day or even just like for a few sessions and then say like, okay, this is my complete and total thoughts on this product. Especially with something as variable as like peripherals, like mouse pads in particular. It's just gonna change over time. And it's definitely worth like A/B testing, going back and forth and seeing if those opinions hold weight, because you know everything's relative. But yeah, that's kind of the plan, is that I want to talk about peripherals if I get them and they interest me, and then I'll update with them my thoughts a week or a month later, depending on how much I'm playing. Nowadays, there's really not a lot for me to play, though, to be honest. Like, I do still enjoy Battlefield 5, but the servers in NA are just getting worse and worse. The situation has gotten just horrific. I should be upgrading my shotgun, but that's okay. Where in the past, like, it was pretty easy to find, you know, I have an option between, like, 2 Conquest servers at least. And that's, like, not the case anymore. Ooh, I'm glad I checked my scrolls before I came in here. Because we're going to get Glass Cannon, then we're going to get Spirit Free Line. That's kind of crazy. So I should win now. Let's see. Advanced Depot. Another item that I don't need and almost took anyway. So many neurons activate when I see an item that would give me infinite ammo. Okay. Let's see what else we got. But yeah, I like this little formula that I got here. It's fun to just like have an excuse to play this game, as well as kind of do what I was talking about with emulating the balisong community. We'll see how the balisong reviews go though, because I'm not that good at flipping. I'm a lot better than I was the last time that I posted about balisongs, and like I posted a behind the 8 ball on my Instagram like ages ago. Don't follow it, by the way. I don't use that shit. And I look back now, I'm like, wait a minute, this shit is so sloppy. What is my hand doing? But to be fair, I guess having a knife that carries momentum is like huge for like getting better. I was gonna start yapping about fucking end-weighted balisongs. Like, no, we'll save that for another time. So I guess I could talk a bit more about my glass pad experience. The last 2 glass pads that I used, or I guess 3, Superglide XXL, which is like pretty much just the Skypad 3, but like a little bit more quality of life improvements, namely space, and a little bit smoother, a little bit more dust resistant. But in terms of speed, it's pretty similar. Maybe a touch slower than the Skypad. So now I would move on to the Skypad 4, which I did as like an experiment, really, more than like something I actually wanted to use a lot of. Because when I first picked up glass pads, it really helped my mouse control a lot, to the point where I sometimes recommend it to people as like, this is a way that you can train your fine control if you find that you're like super shaky as a result of like excess tension, because that one will kind of force you out of it in a way. Where if you are tensing up too much, you will be aware of it, because you will be shaking like crazy. At least up until a point. When you learn to control the tension and like have dead stops, then it becomes a bit hard to tell. Then it'll show up in the way that you aim more than like physically shaking, which is, you know, makes things harder. But at least at the start, it was huge help for my mouse control. I would love to see like other testimonies of that, like other before and afters of using glass. But anyway, I thought the Skypad 4 can continue that trend, where it's so fast, so much faster than the Skypad 3 and the XXL, the Superglide, that it could continue to bolster my mouse control and take that even further. So I used the fastest skates that I had, as well as the SkyPad 4, and I used that for like a month or so. And it definitely revealed to me what exactly happens when you don't have any friction to help you stop with the mouse pad. That's what got me interested in control mouse pads, or control glass pads at least. At that point, I was still set on glass. Was when you have no friction to help you stop, you kind of have to use some additional amount of tension, unless you use like the mouse lift or whatever, or like very high sets. You also won't have to do it as much. But I really think that like if you use 35 plus centimeters and you want to flick very fast, it becomes pretty, I wouldn't say impossible, right? But very, very, very hard to continue aiming after the flick. If you have to reverse directions, if you have to micro adjust, things get really tricky. That's kind of nice. Okay, this pad, I'm actually liking it a lot. It's kind of feeling like I wouldn't say the best of both worlds. I think that's not quite fair, but just like a really good fast cloth pad. I feel like I can flick as fast as I want and still have control, but I don't feel like my micros or my tracking is sluggish. Maybe like a little bit more sluggish than glass, of course, but like I can definitely get used to it. Anyway, so yeah, the SkyPad 4 was that kind of awakening moment for me. Where like, wow, I'm having so much trouble tracking post flick, and I don't really know why. Is it a skill issue? Is it a arm wrist transition issue? I don't know. And I do think it's a friction issue primarily. Let's see, what can we do here? And then after that, I'll talk about the kazemi, because that's kind of the other side of the coin. I'll try this. Or like Blade 3 is quite good. And then I'll do shotgun upgrade. This is not terrible, I think. I think I'd rather just not die. That should be quite good, actually, with Spirit Feline. Taking their free hit. Alright. And then upgrade this. Maybe it should be good. I'm gonna go sit over here this time. It's my favorite spot to TS in. Alrighty. So the kazemi came after that, and that pad is really good, by the way. I don't know if it's like ever coming back. I think it is. I think that they're releasing blank ones like fairly soon-ish, but it is like by far. Well, I guess the SkyPad 4 is like somewhat comparable in smoothness, but I think the kazemi still clears it. And it's like so smooth that your hand almost feels numb as you run your hand across it. Like it's a cool feeling. It also is one that is like the best without a sleeve, if that really matters to you. Even my like super sweaty arms, or I don't even know if they're sweaty, they're just more sticky or something. I was gonna talk about why I think that might be the case. Anyway, yeah, it worked pretty well with the sleeve. That one also offered a little bit more control than all the other class pads that I've used aside from the Sarah pad. So it was interesting for sure. However, for me, it kind of stuck in that like middle ground between a control pad and a speed pad, even though it was still very fast. I kind of wanted more friction. I kind of felt like at that point, like the speed is nice, but if we're going to have control at all, we might as well have a bit more. I'm willing to give up some more speed in order to do so. So yeah, that's what started the cloth pad journey. A decent amount of clips I got for the Azeron video were using the Energon. It's a pad that I don't love, and you can see, or at least I can see in a lot of the clips that I have that I'm using it in, it looks a little bit shaky on the post flicks or the micros. Just because like the friction bouncing is a little bit too staticky for me. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a bit hard to get the mouse moving, and compared to other fast pads. So yeah. So let's talk about the direction of the main channel. Okay, first of all, the Azeron video. That video came about because I was making videos for Voltaic, if you're interested in this aim, I mean, if you've gotten this far, you probably are interested in aim stuff. I've just been yapping about peripherals for so long now. But if you are interested in like aim theory stuff, I have 2 videos up there that I'm actually quite proud of. One of them is about smoothness. I feel like smoothness as a concept is kind of misunderstood, especially within the aim training space. And the category name of smoothness for like smooth butt type scenarios is a little bit misleading as to what the skill actually entails. So yeah, that's the first video. And the second one is for flick technique. Me and Viscos wrote the scripts for them, and then I did the storyboarding, the narration, and all the revision for them. So yeah, they're not on my channel, but I see them as like still a piece of my soul in a way. It's probably not a good thing that I see every video I put out as like a piece of my soul, but you know, it is. The flick technique video especially was one I had like a really hands-on approach with, where I had to film so many of the shots myself. I say film, I just took with my phone camera. But yeah, it was a cool process of taking like all of these ideas of what I saw in my head, and then placing it all together. And then I still like remember the epiphany moment in the shower of like, what if we take like 7 different flick techniques or whatever, compare them all and their like benefits and such. And yeah, so that's what that is. We kind of go through the pros and cons of the ways to flick, which are, I can demonstrate them. The tension stop. So you tense your arm up to stop the mouse. There is, let's see what else. The tension release, where you use the ambient friction of your pad to stop, as opposed to using tension, and it lets you be kind of more relaxed by the end of the flick. There is pushing the mouse into the pad, which I can't really do with this thing, but I'll try to get some more frictions from it. It's pretty similar to the tension stop on this thing, because I cannot vary the friction that much. There is using your fingers to stop. So I'm using my fingers here, kind of dragging them on the pad to create stopping power. I'm going too fast, so I'm missing, but it's a good technique actually, especially if you don't do it all the time, like only when you need to. If I just slow down, I could probably do something nice. Okay, if I don't die first. Okay. Let's see what else is there. The mouse lift. I'm bad at this one. Let's see. I need to have like a wide angle one. It's way easier for me. I'm so bad at it. This shit's so hard. No, I missed. Alright, forget it. I got a really nice one in RoboQuest for the video that I realized like I have to record with a slow motion camera. Huge video file. And I realized like halfway through my RoboQuest run that like, oh shit, I wasn't recording this whole time. So I turned on the camera. I hit like a crazy 3 mouse flicks in a row. And I'm like, holy fuck, that was so lucky. I don't know, it was a little bit easier on the OP one though, because it's easier to grip the sides of that mouse compared to this one. Mouse left. Boom. I can kind of do it. I actually do want to practice this though. I also talk about how Minigod, the way that he flicks is really interesting to me, where he will lift his mouse slightly. So you see, oh wait, the camera's up here. So if like this is the mouse pad, he will go like sideways when he flicks. So if he wants to do like a normal tension release stop, he'll just put the mouse back down and then, you know, release the tension. If he wants to do the mouse lift, he's already like halfway there to lifting it entirely. So he's kind of in like, okay, that was a good one. I didn't even hit him, but the fucking crosshair landed on him, so I'm counting it. Anyway. So yeah, they go over the pros and cons, what they each do for you, all the downsides. I just said cons. And we have a cool little frag video from Viscos. I like that video, but it's not doing as well as I thought it would. I feel like my clickbait game on that one was a bit weaker. I actually didn't believe Laura when she said that, like, yeah, everybody puts com aim in their title and people will always click on it. And I'm like, there's no way. That shit is so stupid. Com aim in Valorant? But they do, and it works. But yeah, okay, the whole reason I got on this topic in the first place was that by doing these videos, there is like a separation that I felt from myself and the content. To even though I was doing, like, I don't want to put a number on it because that's not really fair to everybody else involved in the project, but even though I was like the main creative force behind all of these projects, they were still not seen as my videos, which, you know, obviously is fair because it's not just my videos, but I was seen as the narrator, I think is a better way to put it. And that was actually quite disheartening for me, where I, in putting myself out there so much, I felt like would get like super anxious the day before the videos go out. And then just to be like, oh, that was a great video that you narrated. Obviously, I don't blame anybody for thinking that, especially because like I haven't really revealed how much of a aim loser I am to this channel, or like, I mean, I kind of did, but not to the extent that people probably realize. And I've also gotten a lot better since like the last time that I was seen playing FPS games. But yeah, so one of the things that happened was that there was a YouTuber that I had been following for like a long time, who had replied to the voltaic thread that I made about the flick technique one, which did fairly well. And he left a response saying like, yeah, I see some parallels to the game that I play, and I really like this video. It's really well done. And I'm like, that's so cool that this guy that I follow for so long is like interacting with this thing that I made and is like, it's very personal to me. But I gave him a reply talking about like, yeah, I used to play that game too, and I also had this revelation a long time ago. And you know, there was some things to say to that. There was definitely a discussion to be had, but I just like was not seen as the creator. I was probably just like some guy who was like, oh yeah, you know, another random person in my replies. So yeah, that feeling of like being separate from the content that I worked so closely with was a little bit too much. It was a very defeating feeling. And that's kind of the final push that I needed to like start making content on my channel again. This Azeron video has been in the works for like 2 years, right? I started it in 2022, and I've had the product for like longer probably, or maybe not that much longer. I guess I could pull out like the Google Doc and find out, but that's okay. But the main thing stopping me were the frag video. I had like absurdly high clip standards, probably because I was close with Riley and Viscos. Comparing, like, I'm not good at target switching compared to them. My first target switching game was Battlefield 5, and like I only started playing that like, I don't even know how long ago now. Maybe a year, maybe less. I have like 200 hours, so it's some for sure, but it's not a lot compared to all the COD players that grew up with like 2019, and we get clips on shipment all the time and stuff like that. It's different for sure, but I tried my best. But yeah, comparing myself to them and seeing their clips all the time would be like, man, mine looks so slow and unsnappy compared to that. I gotta get better. So yeah, the Azeron video, I'm pretty happy with how it's being received overall. It's been a long time since I posted anything, so I wasn't really sure exactly how well it would do or how the algorithm would treat me after posting it, but I can't really complain. I hope it's still got some more gas in the tank. If it were to die off right now, I would be a little bit sad. Because I think it's a solid video. But yeah, as for what's next, do I have any FPS projects? I do have one. So there is a progression of mice that I've been using over time where I got really into fingertip mice. I kind of like showed this to the camera earlier without even mentioning it because it's just like what I've been using for the past 2 years or so. They have kind of transformed me as a player, to be honest. Back when I was okay, let me not get into the lore too much. I can save that for another time. Basically, I've used the HSK, which is like the bigger version of this. I have it on my desk, actually. This guy. And then I used HSK Pro. And then I'm using the 4K one now. This progression of mice has kind of led me down a dark path of wanting to continue optimizing this extremely niche option already. So more so for shape than weight, but there also needs to be like a baseline of weight. I feel like for a mouse this small and this like unwieldy or like unstable, I guess is a good word for it. You don't have palm contact. I feel like you do need a very light mouse. But anyway, that's when I started dipping into 3D printed mice. Somebody's, I guess to name him, dolphinrider, Joshua, ancient MGE scout, my goat, became a huge peripheral nerd, which is cool. I used to be a huge fanboy back in the day because I distinctly remember him playing against Banny on stream in an MGE session. Banny just went to some random MGE server, and dolphinrider beat him for like 2 hours straight. And I've never seen that before. Banny was like this untouchable player in MGE in my eyes at that point. And like he is really, really good at MGE. Despite people saying that he's like, you know, average mechanically, he is like insane in 1v1s because his movement on Scout is just like, kind of absurd. But anyway, he was getting cooked by this guy who I had like not really heard of before. Which is cool to me. I always love these like no-name underdog players that are just like insane mechanically for no reason. And that actually reminds me, okay, I need to stop jumping between tangents. But yeah, I would watch his channel all the time. And kind of like whenever I would talk about MGE stuff, I would occasionally reference him as being like, you know, a pioneer of a certain style. And then when I would look through TFTV, I would see his posts that were really analytical. Kind of something that I liked to do in OSPEC in the day, where I would think about things that in a way that most people weren't thinking about them. Things that people would just be like, yeah, just play the game. Well, he would be like, well, actually, in the neutral state of ammo mod, you want to be moving at a 30-degree angle towards your opponent to make optimal, you know, win the neutral matchup most optimally. Stuff like that. But anyway, he talked about a very obscure glass pad, as well as his experience with using different sleeves and things like that. And I knew a little bit about that glass pad at the time. I don't even remember the name. It was like the Obsidian MCX LVI or something like that. It's like a single guy making these pads on his own, handmade, just doing like I don't even know his technique, but he just gets it to the point where he can mimic a cloth surface to an extent, just because of how much effort he puts into the process of refining the pad. It's a cool pad, but it's far from being like production ready, or even like sales ready, I guess. Ooh, that's good. I want to try this weapon. This one's cool. This is a new weapon that came out yesterday. I was really disappointed when I saw the description of the weapon. It was like, fire auto-firing projectiles at your enemies. I'm like, oh shit. Gun name Tracker, there's no tracking, it's just like automatically aiming for you. Ooh, that's good. But it does have some aim mechanics. I think there is a little bit of travel time, but it's like dual fang travel time, which is cool. It is a bit. But it's so stable. I like this. It's also a rifle though, so it's not quite as fast as the SMGs. But anyway, talking about dolphinrider. Yeah. So we get into contact, and he tells me he's working on this fingertip mouse project because we have the exact same issue with mice, where we have this weird grip. That's not that weird, actually. It's like a claw grip, but there's no palm contact, basically. So it's still a fingertip grip, but we don't hold it like, let's see if I can give an example. Like for this mouse, for example, it's basically just like this mouse, but that's the top cut off, right? Or the back cut off. Most people would hold this mouse, like, you know, towards the back. And then people like would go to this one and do the same grip, where you have all of your fingers like mostly extended, kind of cradling the mouse at the front. We would move our hand up and claw it like this. So that's the difference. And we had the same exact hand size. He was working with a guy named Roger on Etsy. He was working on a project called the Wide Mouse. And he was like a beta tester. Him and Roger went back and forth testing different models, which was quite neat to me. Like, I had never seen anybody do this like 3D printed these mice to this degree in like a creative way. I think this maybe it was what's the word I'm looking for? Contemporary with the Zero mouse, but that one is more like specs than shape. To like be pushing the boundaries of shape with a 3D printed mouse was way cooler to me. No offense to Optimum, of course. What he's doing is cool as well. But yeah, he got me into the project. I got a few samples, and that was like turning on a light. I now know about these absurd fingertip shapes. Oh, I led too much. Sorry. Trying to figure out this weapon. Okay. There is more travel time in the dual thing, I think. But anyway. I said the word anyway like 40 million times in this fucking recording. Oh my god. I was talking about dolphinrider. Yeah, I was turning on a light. So then I tried some other 3D printed mice, and I still want to try more. But it culminated in something called the HCKP, which is a fingertip mod by a guy named Popo Pyo, which he has another project I really want to talk about. But he had based it off of a shape that was near and dear to my heart. If you've been watching a long time, I used to be a huge shill for this mouse called the KPU, the Cone Pure Ultra by Rockhat. I felt like it was like the best claw ergo shape. But now it's very dated, unfortunately. I still think the shape is quite good, though. It's very comfortable. Do I have it here? Maybe I can show you what I did to my KPU. Basically, I cut it in half. I turned it into a fingertip mod. This was before I found out about the HCKP, which is like a fingertip mod that is inspired by the KPU shape. Super, super cool project. But it had some design flaws that I couldn't really get myself to get past. Namely, like the buttons being the same height, I feel like did not work with the KPU shape. And I also kind of like having my thumb all the way at the bottom. I don't know, maybe the KPU shape isn't for me anymore, but I want to find out. So I need to print out my own, basically. And I have no skills to do so. Like a slightly edited, slightly thinner HCKP, or just some other fingertip ergo shape. But yeah, the reason that it's so hard is because it's a niche on top of a niche. Like, fingertip mice are already pretty uncommon, like weird. But like, ergonomic mice are also, it's not that uncommon, but it is a bit more uncommon and also a bit weird. So to have an ergonomic fingertip mouse is like, that's gonna be a target audience of like just me. However, it still interests me enough to where I feel like it would be a cool story, where I started with the KPU and I end with like a KPU-like mouse, as well as having all these steps in between of like trying out these different mice, getting discouraged, thinking that the project is over and dead, and then finally coming back and like finishing it to make my perfect mouse, which you can buy for $500. But let me just bang out the rest of my topics here, because I am rambling so much. I've lost all my brainy glycogen. So, let's see. other things that I want to do. The GeoGuessr video. So if you look at this channel, I've got some old GeoGuessr Battle Royale victories. There was a day where I logged on super early on the new season to like try to rush to Masters. And played like crazy. Got to top 100, got to Masters, and then they introduced a new rank of champion afterwards. But still, it was a cool little thing to do, to come from like not knowing what the heck Belarus even was, right? To going to being able to identify like the font that I use on Slovakian signs and stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool. However, I am still not great at like distance guessing and like getting good plunks, you know, exact guesses. Okay, let me stop. So that would be another arc I'd have to do. If I wanted to get really good at like NMPZ or duels, I think I would need another arc there. But there is a chance I'll finish that video. Just because I started it, I have all the footage still, I'm pretty sure. And I am like okay at it. I don't even remember my record for NMPZ because I don't really do like the quick speedruns that much. But yeah, I still enjoy that game a lot. I just haven't had really an outlet to do so. Aside from that, I wrote down funny keyboard. Oh, right. I want to make, like, there's a genre of video that's like, you know, my dream keyboard doesn't exist, so I made it myself. But for me, like, it actually doesn't exist, and I actually want to make it myself. Because I don't think there's a big enough target audience for this to ever exist, actually. And it's a split Hall effect board with some other features. However, I also do not have the expertise to do so. I would have to consult others, which is, I don't have the connections to do that. I've met a few people that might be able to help me out, but we'll see. Aside from that, I have the charachorder, which I'm glad nobody has done a video on yet, because I feel like it is pretty interesting, and a lot of people are aware of it for some reason. It's basically like a stenography type board where it's chord based. However, all of the buttons are like little 4-directional sticks, meaning that you have like this one stick on your thumb that will give you like ASDF. That's not real, but that's the idea, depending on which direction you push it. Meaning that you never have to move your fingers off of these sticks. You have enough keys under all of your fingers, but it's really weird to learn. And then learning chording on top of that seems really hard. However, it's cool that they have the whole alphabet there. So yeah, that would be something to learn, because the charachorder people claim that it's faster than steno, easier to learn than steno, and I guess that's it. That's just a really big claims, considering you have to go, or a lot of people go to school for steno, you know, they go for court reporting. But speaking of steno, that's another idea that I don't know if anybody has done really well yet, because it's an absurd skill to learn for a YouTube video, right? Where all of the videos that I've seen on it are either done by people who already are good at steno, or are just talking about it as a concept, because it is a cool concept. Basically, the idea is that you type out words phonetically. So you have only like 16 keys or so, and you hit them at the same time. You type in chords, and it'll come out with a whole word based on like the algorithm. You type in words based on how they sound as opposed to how they're spelled. But then you would need like special use cases for when two words sound the same. Either way, it's an absurd skill to get good at, because you have to learn so many different chords in order to be able to type proficiently. However, I think for a video, getting really good at monkey type, like most common 100 words, is pretty feasible. That's what people use anyway to test their words per minute for like how I type really fast, 160 words per minute or whatever. Those kinds of things, like they'll just do a 15-second test and people are like, holy shit. So I think it is fair, even though I'll definitely get people who are like, that's not real steno, you can't type any word you think of. I think that it is fair to say that like it would be a good endpoint for the video. If I can get like 300 on like top 100 words, that's a pretty lofty goal. But it would be cool. 300 is way too fast. Maybe like 200. Because I do have a steno keyboard, like a cheap one. That's like what is it called? I don't remember. The website was like soft/hruf, something like that. But anyway, those are the main ideas I have right now. The one that interests me the most is probably the fingertip one, because I've already done most of the experimentation with it. But yeah, I apologize for this video getting so off the rails. If you just came here to hear me ramble, hopefully that will do a good job, because I was not on topic for the vast majority of the video. Nonetheless, if I were to do a video specifically on a mouse pad, it'd be different, right? I would just be talking about the pad, occasionally about other stuff as I'm generating more impressions about the pad. But this, speaking of which, this thing is really good. I like this thing a lot. Like, this feels like the middle ground. Oh, that was horrible. Okay. Cutting that from the video. But yeah, this feels like the middle ground that I was looking for in terms of speed and stopping power. So I'm excited to keep using it. And also my arm is not really sticking. This thing is more textured than the energon for sure, but it isn't like attaching to my arm. But it is gunfire though, so I'm very used to, you know, using my movement to aim. So that might avoid some of the arm-based micro adjustments I usually have to do. Anyway, I guess that's it. It's been an hour. I'm happy to be making stuff again. And I hope to be posting on this channel at least fairly regularly. The main channel, I'm still like a ridiculous perfectionist. But I have the desire to make more videos, which, you know, counts for something. So yeah, I can't promise that this will be like, yeah, we're back for good forever, guys. But at least for now, I'm doing all right. And be cool to make some more stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching.